For example, at the very top, you definitely want to include the date. You want to space it just like it's showing here, and then you put your information, your first name, last name, street address, all of that. And then right below that, you actually want to put the employer's information. So if you do have a hiring manager's name, it's important to reflect that if it was shown in the application or if you know the person who is doing the hiring, definitely put their name in because that makes you seem like you did some research and you looked into it a little bit further. And it's personalizing it. Then you definitely want to have a greeting. So you can see here we put Dear Hiring Manager, or you could put Dear Mr. Smith, whatever it might be. But you can see that it's left aligned. And left aligned actually means how it looks, how it's set up on the actual paper. So instead of doing everything, you know, in the, what is that called? When you kind of do it in the middle of the page, we're putting everything over to the left. And then we actually give you examples of what the first, second, and third paragraphs would want to include or look like. You can see that we space the paragraphs by adding in an additional space, which is visually appealing. It's easier to read for that hiring manager. And the first paragraph, you want to introduce yourself. You want to explain how you found the position and why you're interested in it. And if you've done any research about the company, you want to include that. So we're going to talk a little bit more about the content on the next slide. You can see the second and third paragraph have different information. And so there's actually an outline you can use. And if you follow this, you can become more comfortable with creating a cover letter, which is really important. You can build the habit of following this process over and over again. And then after a few times, you're going to be an expert and you'll be able to write one out, you know, in a lot less time than your first one. So do give yourself plenty of time for this first go around. So that you're not getting stressed or overwhelmed. You can take breaks and you can have other people read it for review, which is a very important step. Um, so let me move that. I was just gonna, there we go. Other formatting tips, keep the total length short. Usually a page is perfectly fine. Some employers will actually say a minimum of a page or two, and then they'll also have a maximum. So you do want to follow that because that's one of the first things they'll look at is did you follow the directions in what they were asking you to do? Did you not, right? And then you might go into the not interview pile. So you want to be careful. Um, Save and send it in a PDF document nowadays. That is the easiest type of document for people to open and view, especially because they don't have to write on it themselves. And so saving it, even if it's in a Word or a Google Doc, you can go up to the file area and you can save it as a PDF. If you don't know how to do that, there are tutorials. If you Google how to save as a PDF, you can find one very easily. It's more accessible for many people. So let's dive into the content. What is it that I'm supposed to put in here? As it is actual sentences, instead of as a resume, you're looking at putting short action statements in a resume. This needs to have more of a flow and it needs to be easy to read, right? So the first paragraph, let's review what we would want to include in there. I kind of hinted to that already. Introduce yourself and the position you're interested in. It's okay to do that because many hiring managers have many jobs that they're hiring for. So putting in the position number, putting in the title of the position helps them remember which one you're applying to. Catch their attention with something interesting about your skills. Is there something unique that you already see that could make you stand out compared to other people within the work environment and the work behavior, right? Do you have skills in something that you feel would really relate to this position? And you want to highlight that first and foremost. An example could be maybe in sales. Maybe you've had 10 years experience. Maybe you've had 1 year experience, but you really helped that company in the number of sales or something similar to that. Include a relevant fact showing you researched the company. So nowadays with the internet, you can search and find so much information. Take a few minutes, look up the company you're applying to, check out their mission statement, their vision, where they see themselves as a company in 10 years. Maybe they talk about how, what's important to them as employees and how they want to treat employees. And, something that highlights you did more digging and research to know more about them, just like they're wanting to learn more about you. The second paragraph, sell yourself as the ideal candidate. So this is where it really starts to separate yourself from what you put in the resume to what you want to put on the cover letter. You want to use words that they have used in the application. So usually they're going to list a set of skills, knowledge, abilities that they're looking for. Take some of those words if they relate to you and add them in to your content here in the second paragraph. Um, Talk to yourself if you have a high level of interpersonal skills that you really do well talking with other people and understanding them, knowing what their needs are, and that's what they've explained that they're looking for in a candidate. Highlight that. That's what you want to say, and then you also want to back that up with an example. So in the resume, you're not able to provide a reason as to how you were able to do something. This is where you can do that because you can put in a description. You also want to talk about any unemployment gaps that you had, possibly. Maybe you're going to school, maybe you're raising a family. And so you want to highlight that as well. Describe your major accomplishments related to the job. That's a little bit of what I was talking about. So you want to think when you're reading the application, which items can you check off and say, I have that experience? And yes, you're putting that in the resume, but again, you're wanting to provide examples of that accomplishment. So if you worked somewhere for a year in sales and you were able to help them increase their sales by 10% because you brought forth certain ideas and you really worked well with the manager and you related to the customers, that's what you want to talk about. Demonstrate that you meet or exceed the job requirements. So not only do you have these certain skills, but you could see yourself really growing in certain areas, or that you've been able to really become an expert in certain things. Maybe you really enjoy social media, and that could be a way to increase sales too. Maybe you have some ideas that you could share, or you would want to work in collaboration with that department. Say how you would be an asset to the company. Use bulleted list or bold font to make this section easier to read. So definitely you could add in bullets of information like you did in the resume, but you still want the whole paragraph to flow and to make sense when you're reading it. And again, I've said it several times, do not repeat your resume, right? You're looking to say, okay, I want to learn more about a person, not the same thing that I already read in the resume. And then in the third paragraph, you want to make sure that you do actually request an interview and thank them for considering you as a candidate to interview. You can say that you are looking forward to meeting them. You would welcome an interview at any time. And there's certain language that you could use, if you want to look at the suggested one that we put here. You could provide your contact information as well. So it's up to you how you want to close that out, but you definitely want to keep those two things in there in that last paragraph. So overall, you want to think about using professional language. You also want to think of using action verbs. And we actually have a folder or a document that if you're not quite sure what types of action verbs you want to use, we can definitely share this out with everyone. I'll just show you what it looks like. You can also do a Google search, add action verbs for cover letters. There's a lot there. And so let me go ahead and increase this a little bit. And you can see, oh, several ones that are commonly used for cover letters and even resumes. Supervised, evaluated, directed, designed, organized, processed, right? Persuaded. So think about what you're trying to say. And sometimes if you look at this list, it can spark which word would be best for you. Go ahead and go back. You definitely want to avoid abbreviations because abbreviations, they may not understand what those are. It could be someone from a different state or that have never heard of a company that you worked for. So you want to explain what that abbreviation is if you include it. So saying PCC, you want to say Pima Community College because there's other colleges out there that have that abbreviation. So just think of that when you're writing as well. And then lastly, you definitely want to think about certain questions that you might have in mind, considering what parts of your cover letter do you think are the strongest? Um, what areas do you need to beef up on or reread the application? Compare it to your resume to make sure you're not duplicating too much. And what parts would you like to improve? Do you need help with formatting, with the content, or maybe with using professional language? Or who can proofread your cover letter as well as your resume? Both together would be great. And get several people to do that. We are always willing at the college to review. So reach out to many different people here to get connected. And then our website also has more information at this link here that you can also look to read more about cover letters. So thank you for joining us today. And I do hope that this helps you get started. Again, practice, practice, practice. The more you do, the easier it's going to be and the better you're going to get at it. Thank you.